Paris, before 1914, still believed in itself. Not in the loud, patriotic way nations believe in themselves right before they collapse, but in the quieter, older way. Like a cathedral believes in stone, like a library believes in dust, like a city believes that beauty is a kind of proof. The boulevards were still trimmed and elegant, the cafes still full of people who spoke as if history were something that happened elsewhere, to other people, in less polished places. The sign moved the same way it always had, indifferent and continuous, and the bridges carried footsteps that assumed tomorrow would be normal. If you had walked those streets at the right hour, when the light turns the facade soft and almost tender, you might have thought civilization was stable simply because it looked stable. But that's the trick. Civilizations rarely announce their endings with trumpets. They begin to die the way a person does, quietly, privately, through small losses that look like nothing until suddenly they are everything. Edith Wharton understood that kind of dying long before the war began. She had spent her life watching societies perform confidence while quietly decaying behind the costume. She came from New York's old money world, a place where manners were law and silence was virtue, where a woman could be exquisitely educated in how not to become fully human. She learned early that feelings were dangerous in polite rooms. Emotional hunger, intellectual hunger, even physical hunger had to be translated into something acceptable. A tasteful remark, a controlled smile, a perfectly arranged space. Even ambition had to disguise itself as interest. Even intelligence had to be softened, made harmless. And because she could never truly become harmless, she became precise, she became sharp, she became the kind of writer who didn't need to shout because her sentences did the shouting for her. When war began to approach Europe, it did not arrive dramatically at first. The change was subtle. Newspapers grew heavier, conversations in salons developed pauses, small hesitations, as if people were listening for something they did not want to hear. Train schedules shifted. Uniforms appeared more often in streets that preferred civilian elegance. Men who had spent their lives polishing themselves for society began to speak about mobilization the way people speak about weather, unavoidable, unpleasant, arriving. And Paris with its art, its literature, its cultivated confidence, kept smiling. Lamps were still lit. Tables were still set. For a little while longer, the city behaved as if this were merely another storm passing somewhere beyond the drawing room. And this is where the question that anchors the entire story begins to tighten. Why did Edith Wharton stay? She was American. She had money, influence, and the ability to leave France the moment war began. When catastrophe arrives, most people with privilege do what they have always done. They retreat. They preserve comfort. They protect themselves. Edith Wharton had been raised inside that exact logic of preservation. She knew how to live quietly. She knew how to disappear elegantly. Yet, when Europe entered its most lethal and mechanized catastrophe, she chose the opposite of safety. Instead of leaving France, she planted herself inside it. To understand that decision, you have to look at the pattern of her life. When the social world disappointed her, she did not attack it openly, she studied it. She recorded it. She wrote it down with such precision that people often mistook the mirror for an insult. When her marriage slowly collapsed into disappointment, money squandered, affection hollowed out, the quiet humiliation of living beside someone who never truly understood her, she did not dramatize the pain. She built houses, she designed gardens, she imposed order where life refused to offer it. Even her love affair with Morton Fullerton followed that pattern. For a brief moment, it made her feel visible, not merely as a composed mind, but as a living body. But when the relationship cooled into absence and betrayal, she did not pursue him like a romantic heroine. She transformed the pain into structure. She wrote Ethan Throne, that bleak and frozen story of desire and punishment, as if she were translating private anguish into landscape so she could examine it without being consumed by it. And then she wrote The House of Mirth. She had written a tragedy about a woman destroyed not by a villain, but by a system, by polite cruelty disguised as social grace. But the public misunderstood it. Readers treated Lily Bott not as a victim of structural violence, but as a gossip, entertainment, a cautionary tale they could safely enjoy from a distance. For Edith Wharton, this misunderstanding revealed something unsettling. Society does not always punish women for immorality. Sometimes it punishes them simply for being vulnerable in the wrong room. Sometimes it punishes them for being human without permission. So when war arrived, the collapse of European civilization did not feel like a completely new horror to her. It felt like exposure. The same social mechanisms she had spent her life observing, the quiet preservation of ritual while individuals are quietly destroyed, were now unfolding on a continental scale. The world that could destroy a woman with a raised eyebrow was now destroying nations with artillery. At first, her role in the war was not dramatic. It was work, relentless, practical work. Refugees began to arrive in Paris. Women and children carrying their lives in bundles, their exhaustion too raw to be disguised by elegance. Edith Wharton could have watched from a distance and written about it. Instead, she organized. She transformed social connections into supply chains. She used the machinery of wealth, the same machinery she had criticized in her novels, and redirected it into survival. She raised funds, coordinated shelters, and created workshops that allowed unemployed women to earn income. She turned crisis into structure. But slowly the story changes. It stops being about Edith Wharton helping during the war and becomes about what the war does to Edith Wharton. The longer she remains in France, the closer she moves to the front. She visits hospitals. She pushes for permission to see more. She becomes something unusual, a witness who refuses to look away. The war she encounters is not heroic, it is industrial, it is mechanical, it is systematic. It is a machine that consumes youth and produces statistics. Her writing from this period reflects that clarity. She does not romanticize suffering, she records it with the precision of diagnosis. And yet, something unexpected happens. The more she witnesses France in its suffering, the more deeply she becomes attached to it. The France she loved before the war, its salons, its art, its cultivated beauty, had always been elegant. But elegance can hide fragility. Wartime France revealed something else: endurance. War strips away illusion. It exposes what values actually mean and when comfort disappears. And Edith Wharton, who had always distrusted comfort, found herself drawn to this new version of France, a nation wounded, exhausted, and yet stubbornly refusing to disappear. But her commitment comes at a cost. The work is endless. Every shelter she organizes fills immediately. Every donation leads to new needs. The war escalates faster than relief can keep pace. There are nights when sleep does not come. Moments when she realizes she has seen too much to ever fully forget it. And yet, she stays. After the war, something in her writing changes. Not dramatically, but subtly. The way a voice changes after grief. When she writes The Age of Innocence, she's describing old New York, gloves, drawing rooms, polite reputations. On the surface, It looks nostalgic. But beneath that surface, the novel reads like an autopsy. It examines a society that believed itself civilized, while quietly destroying individuals who fail to conform. The irony is that many readers misunderstood the book again. They saw it as a tribute to American virtue rather than a critique. The novel won the Pulitzer Prize, the first time the award had ever been given to a woman. But the recognition came wrapped in misunderstanding. The culture praised her as respectable and uplifting, even though she knew she had written something far sharper. And once again, she chose not to argue. Instead, she did what she had always done. She continued working. She continued writing. She allowed the misunderstanding to exist without letting it define her. By this point, the deeper truth becomes clear. Edith Wharton did not simply remain in France during the war. France had become the place where her moral imagination finally matched reality. In America, she had lived inside a world of polished cruelty, violence hidden behind etiquette. In wartime France, the violence was undeniable, but so was courage, endurance, and the refusal to let meaning collapse. Her life, after the war, settled into a deliberate rhythm. She remained in France, designing houses and gardens, building environments that belonged entirely to her. They were not social stages, but spaces of control and reflection. When she later wrote her memoir, she did so with careful restraint. Certain details were omitted, certain names were left unsaid, not because she feared the truth, but because she understood something few people learn. Dignity sometimes lies in choosing what you refuse to explain. She died in France in 1937, quietly and without theatricality. America noted the event, France understood it, and that final silence feels strangely appropriate for a woman who had spent her life studying how societies remember some people loudly and others privately. But the story leaves one final question behind. Did Edith Wharton love France because it gave her freedom, or because it gave her a stage worthy of her seriousness? Did she stay out of compassion, or because catastrophe made the world honest enough for her to live inside it? Perhaps the truth is simpler and more unsettling. Edith Wharton did not fall in love with France in the romantic sense. She fell in love the way someone falls in love with a truth they cannot unlearn. France was wounded. France was dying. But in its suffering, it revealed itself completely. And Edith Wharton, who had once been trained to sit quietly, speak carefully, and disappear elegantly, looked into that revelation and refused to look away. Hi guys, I'm Arthur, the creator of War Never Changes. I hope you've liked this video. Please consider subscribing to my channel, leaving your like, and also to activate the bell for notifications so you can see our newest videos, right? As you guys already know, I'm a Brazilian medical student, and my dream, my quest, is for the revalidation in the US, to be a US doctor, right? Via the USMLE steps. But for that purpose, I need money, and I don't have money, so here am I. And for that purpose, I'm selling my newest ebook. It is called Love in No Man's Land, 9 True Love Stories from the First World War, right? It contains 2 main editions. The collector's edition, which contains the main book with 1 additional war love story, the 10th story, right? It also has exclusive artwork for all of our war love stories. You also get a customized 100 pages notebook for War Never Changes. You also get an insignia, the War Lover insignia. So it proves that you fought with me in this first phase project, right? And it also has some private intel. Private intel number 1. What does it contain? I cannot tell you because it is private, confidential. Only those who buy it will know. This edition, it contains only 2,500 units left, so you should run, you should buy it fast, right? Please consider buying it. But if you don't want to buy it, shame on you, actually. But it also has a standard edition. It costs only $10 and it contains the main book with 9 more love stories. So if you're interested, please consider checking the description below, the link for the book. And I hope I see you in the next videos. So thank you once more, and always remember, war never changes.